Hi friends, this is Miss Smith. Today in our phonics lesson, we are going to be talking about verb tense. Our objective today is I can identify a verb's tense. Keep this in your mind as we're going through our lesson today and as you're practicing on your own, that we're going to be talking about the verb's tense and what that means. Our essential question is, how are the different verb tenses used? And we're going to see that today as we look at some examples and as you practice on your own. So to begin, we need to review what are verbs. I'm going to give you a second. This is the time for you to pause the video and write down what are verbs. Go ahead and pause the video for that. What were you able to write down? What do you already know about verbs? I know that verbs are action words, so they're things that we can do. When I think about verbs, I automatically think of, is this something that can be done? And that helps me decide if it's a verb or not. An example would be, if I was trying to think of a verb that a person could do, I might think of the word run. To make sure it's a verb, I check, can a person run? And I know that a person can run, so yes, this word would be a verb. What verbs did you come up with? So, those verbs are called action verbs. An action verb tells what someone or something does. So it's something that you can do. And they give us two examples. The girl paints and the boy eats. In each sentence, we're going to make sure we find the verb. So in the sentence, the girl paints, what is the girl doing? You're right, paints. So that is the verb in that sentence. The boy eats, what is the verb in that sentence? You're right, eats. We know that is something that he can do. So now that we remember a little bit about verbs, we're going to talk about verb tense. And verb tense is really important when we're thinking about our writing, because we want to make sure that the verbs that we're using are happening at the right time to support the ideas in our sentences and in our stories. There are three main verb tenses that we're going to be talking about today. The first verb tense is the past tense. That tells something that has already happened. Usually, verbs that are in the past tense end with ed. Some examples in this picture are looked, smiled, and waved. I can check and see if the verb is in the past tense by using the word yesterday. So I check and see if it could have happened yesterday. So, I smiled yesterday. Yeah, that makes sense. I waved yesterday. That also makes sense. So those are things that have happened in the past. Sometimes you might be writing a story about something that's already happened in your own life, and you would need to use past tense verbs to make sure the audience understands that this is something that has already happened. Or it could even be a story that you've made up, and maybe there's something that happened in the past in that story. The next verb tense is the present tense. This tells what's happening right now. These words don't have any special ending. So these are what you think of when you normally think of a verb. Eat, play, smile, drive. And I can check this by using the words right now. So I smile right now. That makes sense. I play right now. That also makes sense. So using these tricks can really help you decide if you're using the right verb tense. Like I shared just a moment ago, there are three verb tenses. So we've heard about the past tense and the present tense And the final verb tense is called the future tense. This tells what is going to happen. So it has not happened yet, and it's not happening now, but it will happen later. These words usually use the word will before the verb. So will smile, will wave, will read. And you could use tomorrow to help you figure this out. I will wave tomorrow. That absolutely makes sense. I will read a book tomorrow. That also makes sense. So using those words can really help you make sense of the verb's tense. Now that you've heard a little bit about verb tense, it's your turn to practice. You can extend your learning in two different ways. In your week 5 packet, there are several pages of verb tense for you to sort some verbs into the right place and determine if the verb is in the past, the present, or the future. Make sure to send a picture of your work to your teacher to show off your hard work. You can also visit IXL.com to practice making verbs. And there are 18 verb practices listed, so there's lots for you to work on. Can't wait to see what you've done.